Well, happy Tuesday to you. It's been a few weeks since I did one of these spatial short talks, so it's about time I got my finger out and did one. It's been a little bit busy. I have just played soccer in near Phoenix, 100 degrees down there, which was insane. And now I'm back in Salt Lake, and it's going to snow in 2 days' time. Autumn's an interesting time, isn't it? Or fall, as they call it over here. So I wanted to talk about generative AI and AI in this talk, and there is a perspective that me and the team that are working on ChatGPT, I wanted to give kind of a high-level perspective on sort of the guiding things that are pushing us towards what we're in the process of building. And I'll give a shout out to Aravind of TerraWatch, who is a space Earth observation expert, for kind of some of the context in this. He's thinking exactly along the same lines as we are. And he voiced that in a recent Minds Behind Maps interview. So I really like that talk. And if you haven't seen it, go see it. And he's talking about some of the things that I'm going to talk about now. So that's the preamble. Let's think about AI and generative AI. I think that ChatGPT's caught people's attention. ChatGPT offers, and that's the generative AI world. So we can input some text. We have AI that understands what we've input and interprets that, and then provides an answer. So its possibilities are endless at the minute. People are generally using it for, how do I use ChatGPT? I'll go in and I'll ask a question. And it saves me doing a Google search, actually, or half the time. I just ask a question about something very specific and it'll come back with an answer. So in essence, I see ChatGPT today as, for my use, and I think for a lot of people's use, is almost combining, collating information and providing it in one single output. So instead of having to do a Google search and get multiple web pages and search all those web pages, we get ChatGPT to provide an answer to us. And then we go from there. And often I ask all sorts of different questions. So it's a simple interface for us to ask what may or may not be a complicated question. And we leave the rest to AI to process that and give us a response back. So in most cases, it's a text-to-text world that we live in. I know generative ChatGPT is moving into images, and there's a lot of talk about where all this stuff's going to. So that's the first use case, I think, which is what everyone's gravitating towards with ChatGPT. And I see people in the mapping community making it simpler to find all the best 5-star restaurants in Athens, for example. So, let me ask that question by text or verbally and take me there. So I put those into that category. I think the next category, which is where the original post that I put on about GeoChatGPT kind of begins, is automating more complex spatial questions or answers to questions. So the analogy I use is data is cooking. So if we think about the ingredients as the data and the recipe as instructions, so how do we get to that end point? That's kind of where I've been thinking in terms of how we can automate to really the process of getting data. Sorry, the journey from to processing and analytics. It's essentially that journey. Let's process all this stuff, collect all the data together. We know the instructions to get to that endpoint. We'll process all that data, and then we'll arrive at a conclusion. It might be a map. It might be just a simple answer to a question. It might be a form or a. So there's lots of outputs that could happen from that. But the key point to this is automating the process and analytics of geospatial data, and that's, again, we know the data, we know the journey to get to an answer, and we automate that whole process. So we don't take just GIS and geospatial analysts out of the conversation. We essentially replace some of the manual tasks, some of the mundane tasks that those folks have to do by automating it. And AI is a thing that automates that. And if you provide a chatbot on the front end, there's a generative AI piece to that. I'm really simplifying that. But the second piece to this, just to repeat that, is the automation of the processing and analytics of data. So what do I mean by analytics? This is where Aravind's talk I thought was really interesting. Really, analytics is that ability to answer a question. And let me give you an example of a question. We have a facility. Let's imagine it's a utility. They have a facility that's surrounded by a population, so it's in the middle of a city. And there are elements within that facility which could explode. There could be problems. And that's happened before. So a question that somebody might ask would be, who runs that utility, is how many? What's a percentage of retired folks that are not mobile around this facility? So you might map that out and say, it's 20% of the population, if it's a retirement community, is retired, and 10% of that population are not mobile. In other words, they need help if something happened to evacuate. So that's an interesting question for utilities to know and understand. But it's an answer it's a simple answer that it requires process and analytics to arrive at that percentage and that map that shows where those folks live. And often, they're going to be in these specific retirement communities there. And another question that one might ask, which is a little bit more sophisticated, is, can you build me an evacuation plan for this, if something happened in the facility? So again, you could ask the question through generative AI, and you could output thanks to AI, some kind of a plan. So that's kind of the second part of, I think, AI and generative AI that we've been really thinking through, is the automation piece. But there's a third piece, and I think this third piece is generally overlooked and not really thought through enough. And I see a lot of people talking about actionable intelligence and insight, all those things. I'll use the terminology that Aravind uses, which is insight. It's that next level. What should I do next? It's that next level. So if someone who's on the safety side of a utility asks the question, suppose in our northeast quadrant of our facility, that particular asset exploded, and the wind was blowing from the northwest or whatever it might be. What should we do next? What would you suggest we do? So, actionable intelligence is AI coming back with an answer to that question. We know that we have a certain percentage of people that are not mobile in that particular quadrant outside of the facility. Those are the guys you need to evacuate first, and this is where they live. So, the evacuation plan would be potentially adjusted to accommodate that question. But the point is, this is not just answering a question, i.e. 20% of the people around this facility are retired. This is actually answering a very specific question and getting an action plan back from AI. And that's one thing I think that we've been really doing a lot of work and thinking about in GeoChatGPT, is that next piece. Now, add another layer to that, add real-time data to that. So imagine that facility is threatened by a hurricane. It's a good example. So as that hurricane approaches, that hurricane's path is going to change. What one can ask in a more dynamic way and get insight from is, where is that? When should we evacuate? Based on what currently, AI, when should we evacuate? So again, AI has the ability to come back and say, as in the current path this hurricane's taking, when it hits landfall, you should be now putting in place your evacuation plan, again, targeting those that are not mobile first is part of that plan. So there's actionable intelligence that's coming out of that based on real-time data. That's another level, again, stuff that we're thinking about in GeoChatGPT. So, in summary, I think there's three aspects of what we're talking about when it comes to AI and generative AI. Again, remember, generative AI is that ability to ask these questions to provide anyone access to complex geoprocessing, essentially, using the right data. The first level is what I think ChatGPT does, which it goes out and sort of collates data and writes scripts for you. The second level that you can use AI for, and generative AI potentially, is process and analytics and automating that. So what used to take 20 minutes now takes 5 seconds, and a whole host of questions can be automatically answered there. These are questions that sit in other systems. It's in one place. And then the third level that is insight. And again, that's that actionable intelligence world. Tell me what I should do next. Given what tell me what I should do next. And then me as a human has to make those decisions about, is AI telling me the right thing or the wrong thing? Again, the access point to this is a simple text box that asks a question and outputs an answer based on that question. So it's evangelizing, it's providing everyone the ability to ask these inherently spatial, geospatial questions and very quickly getting answers out. So there's my Tuesday short spatial talk. Let me know your thoughts on this. I think this is foundational to where we're going actually within the world of spatial and geospatial. So, love to know your thoughts. If you like this, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe and like. Again, I do these all the time. So I look forward to any feedback, and I'll do another one quite soon. Thanks for watching.